Good morning and welcome to our crafting session this morning. It is Wednesday the 11th of June 2025. Good morning to you. My name's Jenny McCormac. If you haven't caught up with me before, I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. I'm based in the market town of Brackley, which is in Northamptonshire, and that's here in the UK. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do some no stamping cards today, and I'm going to be using two new embossing folders. They come as a pair. I'm actually going to only be using one of them today, but they come as a pair for £8.50. That's here in the UK. Morning, Caroline. Thanks for joining us. And they fit in the excuse me, the standard cut and emboss machine, but they also fit in the smaller mini. So if you've got the smaller one, then this is perfect for that, because of the width here is, I want to say, yes, just over 3 inches. So we have, it's called Glass and Gardens. This is a very small print of the design, like 40% of the size, but we've got this pretty row of flowers, and then we've got this glass effect here. I'm not sure how much of that you can actually see on the screen, to be fair. You might be able to see a little bit more if I do it like that. So it's got this really pretty floral design with roses and foliage and another flower. It's not a daisy, I know that. And then the other design is this sort of glass effect. Great for bottles or jars or things like that. So I have embossed these. I've got 2 sheets of watercolour paper because I thought I'd give it a go using inks, but you could use watercolour pencils, for example, as well, with a water brush. So those are the watercolour ones, and then I've also done one on our thin basic white, and you could use blends pens to colour this in. You could use the raised section here, which is the outline, or you could use the reverse of that. And I'm going to be using a blending brush today, just with some light inks for an effect. And we're going no stamping today, so I brought some of the wording from the ephemera packs. So I'm going to be using some of those just for speed. And my colour choice, I've got our returning in colour, so strawberry slush for our main colour. So I've got strawberry slush ink pad. I've also got Pretty in Pink for a lighter element, and then I've got a bit of Granny Apple Green for the foliage as I come for that. So let's get cracking. So I've got a water brush which I've loaded, and let's try the watercolour design first. So what I'm going to do is apply some water apply some water to the center of these flowers using my water brush, and then I'm going to drop some ink into that. Let me find a block to put some ink onto. So I think what I'll do is, let's just grab this sheet for underneath. This is nice thick watercolour paper. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can see what I'm doing. And let's give this a go. So I'm going to do this little sort of daisy one first, and I'm going to do that in the Pretty in Pink, I think. Needless to say, I haven't actually tried this. So we'll do this together. I've got Pretty in Pink, and then I'm going to pop strawberry slush on the other side. can just do a corner, you don't need to do the whole bit like that. You can also squeeze the ink pad. These ink pads are a bit tougher to do. The older ones used to work really well, but you can squeeze the ink pad and use the lid for the effect that you want. So I'm just going to pick out this, whatever flower this one is. I'm applying some water, I don't know if you can see that, to the inside edges, like so. There's a little one here, and then these are all roses that I can see. Here's another one. So I'm just picking at that particular flower style. So, and then I'm going to pick up my Pretty in Pink ink and then just drop it into each of those flowers. And it'll only go as far, unless you go completely mad and soak it, it'll only go as far as the edge of the flower or where I've applied the water. It'll be a little bit more obvious when I do the larger flowers. I might add a tiny bit of extra colour. In the centre. So I'm just going for this watercolour look. Like so I hope you're well, Caroline. Okay, let me lift it up to the screen. Hi, Chris. So, just adding a little bit more colour. I want to keep these fairly light, like so. I think that's all of them. And what I didn't bring was my cloth to clean this off, but I think it'll be right. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same. So that's the light one, like so. And you can do this with stamped images as well. And now I'm going to apply water to these roses. I'm not flooding it, so the good thing about this water brush is it only applies a little bit, but you could use a paintbrush and dip it in water, absolutely. Okay, and now I'm going to use the darker colour, just drop it in. And what I'm going to do is apply a few layers of this to build up the colour. Okay, so let's just let that sink in a little bit. And you can, of course, just paint with this. You don't have to add the water first if you don't want to. Just make sure you've got a fairly fine tip, and you can literally just paint if you prefer. So the colour I'm using is Strawberry Slush. if you find the colour is too dark for what you want, just grab a piece of kitchen towel and while it's wet, dab it, and that will lift out the ink. That's a leaf in there. Those are leaves. So you get a different effect if you're painting or if you just apply the water first and then drop the paint in, or the ink I should say. So you could do the same with watercolour pencils. You could pencil in the background and then add a little bit of water, or you could pick up the ink, the watercolour ink, off the pencil directly. My postie arrived. Who needs attention? Excuse me. Sorry about that. Obviously not my usual postie who would leave it. Okay, so let's just build up a little bit more colour on these roses. And I'm going to add in the leaves. There we go. So a bit duller this morning, the weather, but it was turned out lovely yesterday, so I'm hoping it will do the same. Okay, and then we've got this as a little rose in there as well. Like that. That's the leaf, that's the rose. There we go. Now it doesn't matter if you get ink on the edge of the embossing, it really doesn't matter. But there we go. Hope you can see that effect. Let me clean this off and add some greenery onto those, green onto those leaves. So I'm just going to wet the leaves. And the thing is to take your time. I'm doing this pretty swiftly for time, but you can just do a little bit and come back at it if you need to. Let's see if I've got enough ink on here. So this is Granny Apple Green. You could add in a darker shade if you wanted. Let me just add a little bit more colour. So you can do this with any embossing folder. You can also do it with outline stamps, of course. You don't have the raised edges because I quite like the effect of the white edge that you can see. Oh, here comes Craig, UPS delivery. That's ready for our team craft day on Sunday. Go. And there's bound to be one I've missed. almost certainly, because that's always what happens, as you'll see it right at the end. There we go. So what do you think? Do you like that effect? So that's with watercolour paper. Let's, I'm just going to move these over because I might do some more with that later on, because I was thinking whether to just put a little bit of pink around the edges. A very light wash of pink. Let's see. This is what I could do with my large brush. I want to make sure I've got rid of all the green though. Let's bring this back in. I'm going to soak this. Because I want it very wet. And remember, it's going to dry lighter as well as it dries. And the reason for doing this is just to highlight all of the rest of that embossing. It's got some tiny little details which I'm not, tiny little flowers which I'm not sure you can pick up from the thing. Which side am I brushing on? So this has got the raised edges. The watercolour paper itself doesn't matter. You can use either side of the paper, but when I put it through the embossing folder, the one that has Stampin' Up on the front is the edge that is typically raised. So embossed, and the other side is the debossed side. And I can just add a little bit in here. So I've just watered this down. Just so I can highlight the other, oh, there it is, something I missed. That leaf there, that petal rather. Like so. So hopefully that shows up that detail a little bit more. Now what I could do is give it a wash right the way over, either before I embossed it or after the embossing, but before doing that. Let's make sure I've got the light colour again. Just want to drop in a little bit here between these pieces, and it's only to accentuate it. Wouldn't have to do it if you didn't want to, because we've got these tiny little flowers here and little dots there that I want to show off. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and then show you another technique with another one. It is delicate, isn't it? And you can do it with, let's say, you can do it with stamped images. You can do it, certainly do it with watercolour pencils, which I know you've got, Caroline. So, right, let's let that dry, move that ink out of the way, and show you another technique. Let me swap my paper over, because that's a little bit damp. So another option is to use a blending brush over part or all of the design. So this will get a different effect. Now, look what colour I've got on here. Very bright pink. Let's get rid of some of that. Okay, So all I'm going to do is apply, because I know it's got some more pink on than I actually need, apply a very light brush across here. So I'm not adding any pressure at all, and hopefully you'll see this pattern come to light a bit more. So you can do this just to outline the design and keep it really delicate, and this would make a lovely wedding card, I think, wouldn't it? Let me lift that up. Hopefully you can see some of that. Let's apply slightly deeper pink. So this again is strawberry slush, and I'm not putting any pressure on the top, holding the blending brush by the handle, not at the top near the brush head itself. Now, though this is a narrow embossing folder, you could emboss this twice. So I've cut this piece to 9.5 centimeters by 13.85 to give me a layer, but you could take your embossing folder, so you would normally put it in with the Stampin' Up logo on the top. That will give you the embossed image. So what you could do with this one is take it just a little way off from the design on one side, and then pop it back through, turn it round on the other side to get that sort of effect. And what I would do is try and offset it slightly so that it looks a bit less obvious, but it will be a mirror image anyway. So there is that one. That lets you see that design a little bit better. I'm hoping you can see that. Let me put my glasses on, see what you can see. Because I can't see my screen from over here. Yeah, I think you can see that okay. I'm hoping you can. And as I say, you could just thinking it would be nice to stamp across there. I did say no stamping though, but we've got a lovely new stamp set with sentiments that have a sort of curl across it, and I think that would look really nice across the top. So that would make a great set of invites for a wedding or a party, and relatively quick to do. Just, you know, emboss a whole load of them, and then you can sit in front of the television and do some blending. So two different ways. So this one is the watercolour effect. This one is with the blending brushes. You could certainly use watercolour pencils. You could certainly use blends pens and colour in. You could turn it over and use the deboss side as well. So lots of different options for that. Let's just put this, oh, the sun's come out. So this is a strawberry slush backing. This is one here. So I've cut this, oh, I haven't cut this. I haven't cut this to the right size for the note card. I cut it to the right width. Let's just trim this down. I think what I'm going to do is take this edge off here. It needs to be, what have I cut this to? 3.5. So it needs to be 4.5. I'm going to cut that rose off, so I've got 3 yeah, 2 sort of half roses. That could go on the inside anyway, like so. And when you're doing watercolour, just make sure that you have allowed this to dry properly, because it has absorbed the water. So I would recommend leaving it as long as you can before you apply it onto your card. However, I don't have too much time to play with. Make sure you add sufficient glue over the embossed area, because you want a good contact with the base layer, either your card or your card layer. Like so. I'm just going to turn it over and give it some extra pressure. We haven't done watercolour at class recently in coffee and cards, so maybe we need to be doing some more watercolour. And then I've got this layer here, and I know I said no stamping, but let me see if that set is to hand. Although I could just use a larger one of these. So I've got a thinking of you here. Congratulations would also work. Thinking of you. And I could actually colour that with a little bit of pink. That feels a little bit too bold. I think that's a bit nicer. And then let's see, for this one, doesn't matter which way round it goes, I could have a little thanks. That way round. It's a bit lost, isn't it? Let's see what else I've got. Definitely don't need Christmas. Bigger thank you. I don't really want to go white on black. Let's see. Thankful for you. That's a big thanks. Oh, too many choices now. Congratulations feels right for that one. I'm going to stick with my no stamping, as that's what I said. I've got just a note here. I want something quite delicate for this one. Sorry for your loss. Okay, let's go with that. So these are going to go onto base cards. Shall I colour my congratulations, or shall I leave it like that? Decisions. I think I'm going to colour it just lightly. Yep. And just a note, I'm going to leave plain, I think. Okay, let's just put those together and we're done. So Glass and Gardens embossing folders come as a set of 2 for £8.50. And I can see me using, I have to say, I see me using the floral one more than the glass, but there is a new collection of products called something Sip, and I can't think what it's called, that has glasses. So this would be great because it looks like cut glass. That would be really good to emboss that. So let's attach this with a bit of glue. And I think you could just make some nice cards just embossing this and not even needing to colour it. There we go. That's that one. Just pop that onto a white card. I don't know if I've got a side opening one or not. No, but that one will do. It's going to go like that. So I'll be back tomorrow evening live, and then we have coffee and card on Friday. I have a team day on Sunday and a customer class the following Sunday if anybody wants to join us for that. I have spaces still available, and that's a pick and mix. So there are 8 projects to choose from. You can do all 8 if you wish, or you can just pick the ones that you like the best. Right, just going to trim a length for the edges of this one. And I don't like to do one long strip if I can help it. I prefer shorter strips because otherwise you can curl your piece of card if it's not level. So shorter pieces is better. So here's my congratulations. This will make a nice engagement card. There we go. Could add a little bit of pink bling to that. And then my just a note, going to go on here. And then I will add that to a note card. Which way am I going to do it? Like it in there so it stands out a little bit more. There we go. I've left that one plain because it's going on the top. So we've got just a note, that's going to go onto a note card, and my congratulations one there, and have some bling to hand. Whether I've got the right sort of pink, that one would work, or I've got white. I think this one here will work. There we go. In the centre of this flower. It's quite cute. Centre of that one. And there's a little one there. Perfect. There we go. All finished. Hopefully you can see the bling on there. So there we go. So embossing folders, glass and gardens. If you've got existing embossing folders with floral designs, then you can obviously utilise those. These are online exclusives, so they don't appear in the main printed catalogue, but you'll see them online, and no doubt you will come up with lots of ideas. So thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I don't need my phone in the photo though. Let me just lift that up. So we've got this one here. So I just used a blending brush to add colour to that, and then this one here with watercolour using my water painter and some inks. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm off to open my post, check my parcel and grab a cup of coffee. Thank you so much for joining me. Do take care. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow evening, Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time. Thanks. Bye for now.